Hello book lovers, welcome to Uncommon Reader. It's Daniela. Thanks so much for joining me today. It's been particularly hard doing videos during the past 2 months. I've been going on and on about this. The apartment above mine is undergoing some renovations, so the noises during the day are pretty intense. The workers are still up there today, but they are unusually quiet, so I'm going to try to shoot a video. And if you see some abrupt cuts, it means that I'm trying to avoid sharing their noises upstairs. So I wanted to do for the longest time winter reads wrap up, and I've tried also to do a few short videos to share my thoughts on some of my January reads. So towards the end of this video, I will also include those short videos. So since this is going to be an impromptu video, I haven't prepared any notes, and I'm just going to rely on what I remember from some of the books that I'm going to present in this video. Starting with a couple of historical novels like I Am Cleopatra by Natasha Solomons. I have my Italian copy here that I received over Christmas. And I adore Natasha Solomons. I've been enjoying many of her previous books. And this one, I believe, is the second retelling she writes, but the first one was based on Romeo and Juliet by Shakespeare. And this one, of course, is all about Cleopatra, following her life only until a certain point from her childhood, and how she has this sense of duty and wanting really to follow her dad's footsteps as a pharaoh, and her difficult relationships with her brother and sisters, who also had, their ideas on becoming pharaohs as well. But she has the fortune of being beautiful and also very intelligent. So she decides to team up with Caesar, who is very soft with the ladies. So he becomes very charmed with Cleopatra. But, her power is always in danger. So the book becomes very, very adventurous, and you never get bored following her life. So with this book, we follow mostly her alliance to Caesar, not only politically, but also sentimentally, and how she's warming up to Caesar, who is quite intelligent as well. So she admires that. She will also travel to Rome, but at one point she will have to flee from Rome because unfortunately Caesar gets assassinated. So she fears for her life, and with a very intelligent plan, she is able to escape Rome, because Romans weren't very much pro Cleopatra. So she manages to go back to Egypt. So that's where we say goodbye to Cleopatra. We are not going to follow in this book her other relationship with Mark Antony. So I wonder, is Natasha Solomons going to send out another book with the remaining story of Cleopatra? Well, I certainly hope so. And one other note on this book is very important. I almost forgot to add how Solomons portrays Cleopatra as, yes, a very selfish human being, but also kind and thoughtful to the ones she loves. So there are a lot of nuances on her personality that we kind of get endeared by. So I think that Solomons, as a female, wanted to sort of add some other layers to her story, like the importance of the friendship with her slave that was actually kind of a best friend to her. And she's very soft and tender and protective towards her. She's also protective towards her younger siblings. But then she has to be careful, because when they grow up, they also want to, rule Egypt. So we see how she becomes a more thoughtful and sensitive human being without forgetting her role and her powerful figure. So I really liked how Solomon's gets us to emotionally connect with her and enjoy the read throughout. So the second book I want to talk is The Circle of Days by Ken Follett. This is a very enjoyable read. I love historical novels when I get to learn about the past. And this novel is set 2,500 years before Christ. And it imagines the creation of Stonehenge, this still mysterious monument that is set just a few kilometers outside London. One of the most visited sites, archaeological sites in the world, which I had the pleasure to go see when I was working as a au pair in London in the 80s. Imagine that. So I did take a bus with a guided tour, and it was quite impressive to see it live. I think I had some pictures, but I'm not sure they're lost or something, but my camera was so bad. It was so kind of shaky. So back to Ken Follett's book. I think that Ken Follett did a good amount of research, and it's pretty accurate. Although he didn't share any insights on his research for this book at the end, I always love to read words on that by the authors, especially if it is an historical novel. But in this case, he was only thanking a few people in his author's note at the end. But anyway, before getting to the building in stone of this monument, I really want to focus on what was for me quite intriguing to learn how people lived at that time. So there were different communities. There were woodland dwellers, there were farmers, there were shepherds, quarrymen, and they all lived with their own customs. And of course, there was no money at that time. So between them, they used to meet during some summer fairs or spring fairs, and they would exchange their goods. So someone would exchange cheese to get grains in return. And so that was quite interesting to see how everything worked. But also there were conflicts among them, stealing lands or fighting over things. So that was quite entertaining. But back to our monument, which was believed to be a prehistorical observatory site. It's something spiritual about it. It was guarded by this priestess and a group of women that organized prayers, songs, dances, rituals and events like the midsummer ceremony. That's when also other communities would gather together to exchange their goods. So she had this idea, the priestess, which is one of the main protagonists of this book. There are probably two really strong characters and many others that will follow. The other guy who is probably the mastermind of the project, because he was a quarryman. He was also quite talented, as he was an inventor and kind of an engineer per se, one of the first ones probably. So the two together, they work out a plan, figuring out how to bring these heavy stones using so many volunteers and build up the site in a matter of maybe 10 years. I don't remember exactly, but every season they had to wait to bring back these huge stones. So we follow this big adventure that will create also a lot of tensions, because they there are going to be people who are not happy about it, and they're going to literally put a spoke in the wheels, trying to boycott this project to come to a successful end. If I have to add a couple of negative things, is that the book is quite vulgar, especially among the conversations people have. And sometimes the book is a little predictable here and there, but overall is a fast read. There are a lot of intrigues, love stories, people to love, people to hate. So it has all the good components for an adventurous book. And I read it quite quickly, I think 4 or 5 days. This is a 600 plus pages, but yes, the pace is fast, so it's a fast read and overall quite enjoyable. So I think I'm gonna end this video here. I don't want it to be too long, but before I go, I'm going to also add now the 3 short videos that I shared on the channel in case you haven't seen them. They're less than 2 minutes each, so I'll see you here in a bit for the final greetings. The House of the Doors by Twan Eng is a novel that spans between 1910 and 1947, mainly set in Penang, Malaysia. It was a read that became increasingly engaging and captivating, starting with a slow pace at the beginning. And at this slow pace, we actually also unveil the personality of the female protagonist, Leslie. She appears cold and distant, but little by little she reveals her true essence, made of silence and memories. We discover more about her also through her interactions with a very special guest at her estate in Penang, the British author William Somerset Maugham, an old friend of her husband. Other stories intertwine: love, adultery, politics, colonialism, a murder, a trial, but at the center of all, it's Leslie, the undisputed protagonist, who will have to face very difficult choices. While I was reading, I was constantly wondering about the title, how this House of Doors relate to the story. Well, I was happy that I was patient, because when you are rewarded with the significance of the title, you will be taking in the whole story in a way that's quite romantic and poetic. This is a story that doesn't seek immediate effect, but creeps into the heart slowly, like a constant drip from a leaky sink, which over time forms a persistent halo. I like to describe the latest Ian McEwan's novel, What Can We Know? An intimate essay. In the first part of the book, we are in 2119 and we meet with Thomas McCoff, who is a literary scholar who is desperately searching for an unpublished and lost poem by Francis Blundy, who he dedicated to his wife. Thomas also seems to be obsessed with Vivian's persona, even if she lived 100 years before him. His is also a journey through time, filled with reflections on the environmental disaster and the Third World War, which in the 21st century cut the Earth's population in half, which serves as a powerful warning for our generation and the next. In the second part of the book, it's Vivian herself telling her story. We are back in today's times, and she will reveal all the truth about her life and her relationship with Francis Blundy, revealing a complete new, intimate, unexpected perspective, a compelling confession that pulls the reader in, and we learn secrets that Thomas will never learn. I really enjoyed this read. The first part, because of its profound analysis of our irresponsible actions in today's time. And in the second part, I truly enjoyed the more intimate aspect of Vivian's telling her story. The overall rhythm of this book was beautifully paced, making it such a page-turner. The Inhabited Woman by Gioconda Belli tells the story of Lavinia, a young woman living in a Central American country under a dictatorship. Lavinia comes from a wealthy family, but she always had a rebellious spirit. and has never felt at peace with her parents. Now, completely independent, she works as an architect. But she still struggles to understand who she really is and what's her place in the world. Her home is also inhabited by the spirit of Itza, an indigenous woman who lived centuries earlier. Itza observes and accompanies and kind of insinuates into Lavinia's new life. Lavinia falls in love with a colleague who will act as a bridge for her transformation into a more self-aware woman, instilling in her also a need to serve, to do something against the dictatorship. And so it happens that she becomes involved in a revolutionary group fighting against oppression. Despite the historical context being very interesting and quite relevant to the reads I'm used to, I didn't quite feel completely engaged in the story, as I found some elements in the storyline not very credible, unrealistic. But I know this is a much appreciated book, so don't take my word for it. Well, I'm glad I was able to share with you a few thoughts on my latest reads. I was hoping to share more, but let's save those for another video. I thank you so much for keeping me company today and for supporting this channel. I'll see you soon here on Uncommon Reader. In the meantime, happy reading and ciao!